Good afternoon, everybody, or good morning, depending on what time of day or night you're tuning in. Welcome. I am Carolina Quesada with the Nonprofit Partnership, welcoming you to this segment of Our Stories, Our Time. In this series, we interview nonprofit leaders to understand how organizations are navigating through the challenges of these current times. And it also allows us a glimpse into the issues and situations facing local communities. Now, today is pretty special, not just because of our guests today, but we're also kicking off our summer series, and we're really excited about this because we are going to interview organizations who have a focus on recreational, outdoor, and youth activities and programs. And before I introduce our guest today, the Nonprofit Partnership wants to thank the Port of Long Beach for their very generous support of our series. And again, if you are watching us live on Facebook, always invite you to please engage with us by leaving a question or comment in the comment box. So thank you again. With that, want to introduce Lucy Johnson from Aquatic Capital of America. Lucy, welcome.
Thank you, Carolina. Pleased to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. And there is lots to talk about Aquatic Capital of America. I know when I first learned about your organization, I remember thinking we were in a meeting with other nonprofits around the
Right.
table, and I kept thinking, Lucy, keep talking more about your organization. I want to learn more about it. So tell us more about Aquatic Capital of America. What are your programs, your services? What do you do?
Basically, we're doing a few things to kind of honor the legacy of aquatics in Long Beach, which is amazing. And so we, try to do some fundraising through a couple of events each year, an annual awards banquet, which uh, honors people that have done some amazing things in aquatics the past year, because that's usually in January. So it's like a coach of the year, athlete of the year, organization of the year, citizen, something to do though with aquatics. Like 1 year the organization was the water department. 1 year was the Port of Long Beach. So there's a lot, and then we've got a waterman or woman of the year for things that they've done over several years, really, for just their amazing accomplishments, outstanding achievement, like a gentleman, Hank Weiss, who's now swum with Catalina to the mainland 7 times and has
Wow.
finally got the men's record last year or 2019. So he'll get the Outstanding Achievement Award the year after he does that. We also do a fairly recently started a Hall of Fame dinner ceremony to honor some of these people that have been long time like Olympians, their body of work over a number of years, their career in aquatics, Olympians, world record holders, uh, athletes, coaches, some of the organizers, contributors. So those are some of the things we did. And then more recently, excuse me, the Naples Island swim, which goes around, the big part of it goes around Naples Island, swims, in a swimming competition, and a couple of smaller races in there too. That has been going on off and on since 1947. And then I personally picked it up about 1987, but now it's part of Aquatic Capital of America. And it's been one of our better fundraisers each year.
Yeah.
So that's been, those are the types of things we've done. Most recently, the last 4 years, we picked up a program or started a program called, that we're calling now Waterproof Our Youth, because there's so many things. And I'm proud that we started it 4 years ago with two of our board members in particular came up with this, and we're paying for some of the swim lessons, cost of swim lessons for 3-week sessions at the Fairfield Y, which is up
Mhm.
in North Long Beach and serves a lot of the disadvantaged kids up there. Because the statistics are, and I could go on about this forever, but the statistics are so dismal.
Mhm.
There was a study done that showed about 67% of Black youth do not know how to swim. About 59% or somewhere in that high 50 range of Hispanic kids don't know how to swim. Even 37% of just adults across the board. And if the parents don't know how to swim, they're not likely to get their kids into swim lessons. And what happens is some major drowning incidents that are just horrible because the kids couldn't swim and the parents couldn't go in to save them. So that's become a really big part of what we want to do and expand on that. So that's one of the big things that we're using, some of the funds that we raise, to help pay for more. And we want to branch it out in other parts of the city, like the west side and more with the north side. But the problem is pool space.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
hopefully we can kind of twist the arm of the school district a little more to do some joint use agreements and open up like Cabrillo, Jordan, some of the other
Yeah.
pools, high school pools.
And actually, your organization, I think one of the things you're touching on is you're describing what you do, your programs. You do a lot of collaboration with others. And I think that before we get to that point, and also want to come back to another point you made around really supporting awareness of the importance of swimming and learning how to swim for survival,
Right.
honestly, and because families are recreating, they're recreating in all these spaces. I just want to quickly go back to why Aquatic Capital of America was founded, and if you can share with us really interesting tidbit that I don't think quite a few folks out there know about Long Beach. So tell us a little bit more about that, your founding and how you started and what's so special about Long Beach.
We all know that Long Beach is special.
One more reason for it to be
That's right.
special.
Well, our founder, Tom Shadden, he actually was in charge of the sailing events for the '84 Olympics here in Long Beach. The sailing was held, and it hopefully will be again in 2028. Um, he and a few friends had started and actually did some research on it to improve what a lot of us had thought for years, anyhow, that we have more Olympians, more former world record holders, national champions, uh, in all of the aquatic sports except synchro. We haven't had that kind of synchronized swimming. We haven't had a group doing that. But rowing, water polo, swimming, and diving than any other city in the country. So they
Wow.
declared themselves as Aquatic Capital of America.
Hmm.
And the city council in 2008, which is when the organization was founded, agreed that, hey, this sounds great. We'll use it as the designation for Long Beach, which we would love to have them put it on all the entrance signs into the city. And they are reluctant to do that. So they kind of told Tom, hey, that's a great idea, great name, go run with it. So it was fairly slow growing, if at all, for many years. And that was why, there were things to just try to honor that legacy of all these people. And over the last few years, I've been pushing to expand our membership so that we have more funds coming in for these things. We've added, we did an annual awards banquet and some of the early awardees. One of the first one was Jessica Hardy, Jessica Hardy Nectary, who was an Olympian and grew up here in Long Beach, went to Wilson High School, and was a star in swimming. So she was the first athlete of the year. Um, that's been expanded to some of these other categories, but then the Hall of Fame, she'll actually be inducted this year in September into our Hall of Fame because our our rule for that is you have to be out of competition for 4 years.
Mm.
So if you're a coach, no, not a problem, retired for a year. But if you're an athlete, and so she last swam competitively, I think in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're trying to honor those people that have spent a lot of time and have really strong ties to Long Beach.
Yeah, yeah. And what a legacy. I mean, your organization is in many ways, part of that community of stewards of that legacy,
Yeah.
where so many of these Olympians, these star athletes, which with quite frankly international fame throughout the years, have all come from Long Beach. So I think your organization, it sounds like it has really been trying to use that history, use that fact to
Yeah.
really help advocate, right? and
Right.
and put Long Beach on the map, not just for it being Long Beach and I think for all the great recreational opportunities, but also just to go back and tie it to something else you said earlier, just the advocacy you can do in communities here in Long Beach to really help promote swimming and awareness of swimming as well.
Yeah. And a lot of the kids growing up, this leads me into like Belmont Plaza pool. Uh, it's now demolished, and we've been working hard trying to get that a rebuild done. Um, but it was there where a lot of these people came and trained. We
Mm-hmm.
had some of the top coaches in the world that were trained, that brought teams here and brought swimmers and water polo players from all over the world and divers that came and trained at that pool. And
Mm-hmm.
the younger kids in town would be hanging around at the pool, taking their swim lessons or being, starting on a swim team or a diving team and saying, I want to be like that person. Wow, look at that guy. What a fantastic athlete. Look at that woman. Look at how well she dives.
Yeah.
Going back to Pat McCormick, who was one of the first Olympic athletes here, a double gold medal winner, two separate Olympiads, got gold medals in both diving events in two separate Olympiads, 1952 and 1956. Which brings me to something that ESPN Online did a few years ago. It said that Wilson High School alone has had an Olympian in every Olympiad starting with 1952. And
Wow.
we'll still have one in this next Olympics later this month. At least two,
Wow, that's great.
at least two. And about half of those were aquatic people. So
Is there more information on your website that anybody who's really interested in diving a little deeper can maybe go to, or any other resources you recommend to learn a little bit more about all of this?
yeah, I hope so. Our website is still a work in progress. We're still trying to get a lot of the content up there. So we've got some names. We don't have all the pictures we want. It's a work in progress, but hopefully people will look at it and come back to it again from time to time.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the
And we're going to share that link. Sorry,
Okay,
Lucy, I was just going to say we're going to share that link, but
great.
I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say we added something. One of our board members and a friend of his just put something up on the top of the homepage that's the water temperature in Alamitos Bay. So people can go before they go swim in the bay. They can check out and it's updated every 2 hours. So it's about 68 degrees right now for those that want to get in.
And yeah, there it is, right above the picture of the Queen Mary on your website. So.
Right.
Well, thank you for all of that. So shifting a little bit, Lucy, and thinking about, this is part of what we ask everybody who we get to interview. We want to understand how the pandemic has impacted them, what has happened. And so we're curious to know what has changed for Aquatic Capital of America since the pandemic broke out.
Well, first we weren't able to do any of our 3 normal fundraising events last year. We couldn't do the annual banquet. We got through it in 2020 before everything shut down, but we haven't been able to we didn't do the 2020 Naples Island swim. That's back on the schedule. We're assuming we get our permit because they've permitted some other things for August 15th. We're scheduling our Hall of Fame dinner and ceremony for September 13th. And but we decided we'd go ahead and do another virtual event this year too. So just for the fun of it, because we had a good time. Last year we went cumulative. If you went out and swam 500 yards, you put it in for that day. And then the next day you maybe went 800 or you decided to go paddle boarding, and it was a cumulative thing. So we billed it as going from Long Beach to Hawaii. And we had so many people participating and so many yards accumulated by everybody that we had Long Beach to Hawaii, back to Long Beach, back to Hawaii.
Wow.
So we're starting one on Friday that's going to be Long Beach to Tokyo for 30 days to try to get in to Tokyo by August 8th, which is the closing ceremony date for the Olympics.
That's right. They're still moving forward with the Olympics, right? So they're going to have that. And that's about how many miles off the top of your head there?
I think I looked it up. The air miles were something like 5,486.
Wow.
So
well, that's an interesting, Then that's an interesting take on, still being able to convene community online, because, a lot of nonprofits obviously are doing that. They're holding events or fundraisers online. But your event has also a live component. I mean, you have to also, kind of honor being out there and collecting those miles, whether it's through paddle boarding or some of these other ways.
Or the rowing, it's the canoeing, kayaking, paddleboard, the rowing center and the Long Beach Rowing Association has their members participate. The outrigger canoes, it's whatever body or vehicle or your own body that you want to go on or under the water, in the water. And, it was really fun. It got people out there that had not been able to do any kind of exercise because of the lockdown and the social distancing requirements. And so, and even, another part, not just our event, but all summer long last year, the Alamitos Bay was just packed with high school teams, water polo and swimming. They weren't supposed to be playing water polo, but the teams were conditioning. swimmers, master swimmers, everybody that likes to be in the water was using the bay last summer because they couldn't do anything else.
Mm.
Belmont Pool finally reopened in June, and that was my lifesaver to get in and be able to swim anywhere from 2 to 4 days a week and still see people. I kept telling people in the city staff that chlorine kills everything, so we shouldn't worry as much about COVID as some people might. But it was something where people could get out and still have a sense of getting physical, feeling physically better and mentally better because they were able to get
Hmm.
out and do stuff.
Yeah. And that's part of what we've been curious about probing with you too is, just from your perspective, do you think that the pandemic has in any way changed our society's view of just how important recreational spaces are? I think we take a lot of these things for granted, but we've been in lockdown, you're right. So,
Yeah,
so what do you think about that? Do you think people have, kind of changed their opinion around recreational spaces, activities, the connection to maybe mental health?
I think so. I mean, just in my neighborhood, I think the bicycle manufacturers had a boom because
Yeah.
I saw so many families out riding bikes together. And I saw teenagers that were riding bikes and not being on their video games all the time. I mean, and hopefully that will continue. I don't see it as much right now because there's some of these normal activities are getting back
Mm,
to happening where they can go to their club teams or do stuff. But I hope it does stick. I think there's a lot more people out still walking and doing that stuff, and it is extremely important. And I think people have started to realize that. I mean, it's people that were working remotely. Some of them want to still do that. Some of them want to get back to the office. But recreation is just so key.
yeah.
It really helps everybody. Fitness, physical fitness, but mental health. I mean, I would have not been happy at all. Just trying to not having anything like that to do.
Right. Absolutely. And I think that maybe something related to that is an awareness of the physical environment and our natural environment
Yeah.
too, especially Long Beach. I mean, it's water.
Yes.
So ocean. And is that part of the advocacy that Aquatic Capital of America also gets involved in, is bringing in more awareness of our waterways and
We
our
try
ocean?
to. I mean, there's some parts of it. There's one of our board members is a gentleman named Lenny Arkanstal, and he lives on a boat at Bahia Cerritos Marina, and he started going out in that, which I recently learned was Steamboat Slough, which was when the Marine Stadium was created. That's where a lot of the stuff they dredged went. But he went out and started seeing all the trash out there and started picking it up. And he's developed that into contracts with the city and I think County of LA and different places to do a lot of water trash cleanup. And then also in the past 3 years or so, the wetlands restoration project, which was somewhat controversial. Well, controversial because some people say, well, leave the oil in the soil, great little hook. But the oil operations at Second PCH were are so degraded, but it's grandfathered in. So you can't, they could have kept drilling forever. So there was a program that came up with the city and the owner of that field, used to be Bixby Land Company, had come up with a plan to mitigate a lot of that, move the oil operations into much smaller parcels with high-tech equipment, new equipment, instead of the stuff that you see, the big ugly tanks and stuff in the dried up fields that you see when you drive by that area. So Aquatic Capital is very much in support of that. Went to speak at Coastal Commission and stuff in support of that project because it will be better, so much better for everybody. And yeah, it'll take a long time, but we'll have some more wetlands back and cleaner water and a lot less impact on the environment from the oil operations. They won't go away, but
Right.
they'll be in a better, more modern facility.
Right. Right. So as we are seeing, obviously, and we have as a society. I mean, we've been coming back, we've been reemerging after, and it's not that the pandemic has gone away; it's still around. Um, but tell us more about what your hopes are, as far as what you want to see reemerge, as we are all coming back, if you will, to engaging in physical spaces again, to being in proximity with each other again. What do you hope to see Lucy, as we are, kind of trying to come back from this initial shock of living under lockdown and
Yeah.
surviving a pandemic.
Well, we'll probably get people, upset with me for saying this, but I think one of the things I want to see is more people vaccinated. That's one of the things that's going to get us back to normal a lot quicker, if we ever get back to a true normal. But there's still so much hesitation from some people, and depending on where you are in the country or the world, as to whether the pandemic is still raging or whether it's decreasing or almost going away. So I think that's something that I think has nothing to do with aquatic capital per se. It's just my personal opinion that that's something that before we can really kind of relax and get back to a more normal situation, I think that has to, much more of the vaccination has to happen, and people hopefully will start to understand that. But then we can go out and do all the fun things we used to do. I don't think that I was listening on the radio today driving around, and do people want to go back and just pack into bars and be that close, or will they just do something a little bit more, a little quieter, still socialized, but not necessarily
Mm-hmm.
the big parties and stuff like that. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that'll really change, or if people will just go back to the previous behavior.
Yeah, or maybe now because we are using technology in different ways too, that we might continue to integrate that in the way that we interact,
Yeah.
that we socialize, that we create community, foster community.
Yeah.
And just kind of curious to know as well. I mean, do you think that there, and I think you certainly answered this actually earlier, where there is more of an awareness too of just the environment, and I think that when we first went into lockdown and there were different news stories coming down the newsreel pipe that
Right.
talked about how it seemed like nature was coming back to the cities almost. I think we
Yeah.
saw, stories of that throughout the world, like different, rural, semi-rural, even urban
Oh
areas.
yeah.
So is that part of what maybe you would hope that, there is more of too, more of an awareness and maybe appreciation for our natural resources?
I think so. I think, it was really cool to see people posting things on Facebook of, the wildlife that are just walking down deserted streets in cities, and I live actually pretty close to a couple of blocks away from the duck pond over here on the east side of Long Beach. And that's where I did my walking up until the pool opened and I could go swimming again. But, it was amazing the different types of waterfowl that I saw there, and, how many were there. And I haven't walked over there directly, this year, but it just didn't seem like there were as many geese as last year. Learned about new species of birds that were over there. I mean, it's part of apparently on the Pacific Flyway or
Yeah.
are close to it. So, I mean, white pelicans that people don't see very often. So all these birds that were transitioning from, north to south, migrating and stuff. We were just hanging out at the park at the duck pond for months. And, all these years I've lived here, I never saw the baby ducks or baby geese. And I did during that. And it was fantastic. And now the city's working on trying to restore that and clean it all up anyhow. And, you know, what are you going to do with the birds while you're working on it? And where will they go? Make sure that they're safe, and that
Yeah.
as soon as it's redone, they should be back. So it's just tremendous appreciation. Same thing with all the people that were walking and seeing it probably for
Mhm.
the first time in the times they've lived here.
Yes, absolutely. And how wonderful, if definitely if you live in Long Beach, but or you have access to Long Beach, that we're able to then access a lot of these areas and hopefully think about that and reflect, on the natural fauna
Yeah,
and resources as well. So, Lucy, in our last few minutes, tell us more about what's coming down the pipeline for Aquatic Capital of America. Any events that you want to make sure we're aware of? Any ways to engage with you, communicate with you as well for more info?
sure. You're reminding me that I need to go onto the nonprofit partnerships calendar page and put these things in there. um, but we do have, it's going to be a busy summer for us. because we have the virtual swim starting Friday, and that's a 30-day deal. So that's online. It's pretty easy to do. People get a T-shirt and a medal for joining on, and it's like $40 to participate. But the Facebook group page that I think Madison was going to put the link up to. I mean, that's where last year with the group page for that event, people could, they were putting their GPS tracker pictures up. They were putting pictures of where they were. We had some people from, most of the people were Long Beach, but there were some people all over the country that participated in it. And, seeing
Wow.
a couple of people that swam for my old coach who lives in Alabama now. And so they were jumping into Tuscaloosa Lake, so there's a picture of them up on that group
Mm-hmm.
page. So we've set up a new one for this event, and we'll be doing the same thing. People can trash talk on each other, or, you didn't swim today. I saw the results, and you didn't do it. You didn't row. Um, so it's just kind of a fun way to look at that event. We have our Naples Island swim coming up on
Okay.
Sunday, August 15th.
Great.
And I think that's link is also up into the chat. Registration's open for that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then in September 13th will be our fifth Hall of Fame dinner and ceremony. And the Rowing Association has been gracious enough to allow us to use the washdown area over at Marine Stadium. And it's an outdoor evening event that is really neat. And it's not like your typical banquet, because it's like Hawaiian shirts and flip-flops and shorts are encouraged.
Fun.
And it's outside. Yeah, and it's outside.
Good.
So, and then the last thing is, of course, we're going to be participating in Long Beach Gives on
Mm.
the 24th.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to be busy preparing for all of those things.
Wonderful. Well, congratulations. There's so much that you're working on. I think obviously programs, partnerships, organizations you're always looking to partner with as well.
Yes.
And again, this promotion of the city and of all that it has to offer in the way of recreation, I think specifically, and in the way that you've been talking about it today. So, any other final thoughts, Lucy, before we wrap up for the day?
Um, I, I saw in the potential questions or something about, what would you say to your nonprofit peers? And I just wanted
Yeah.
to close with that and just say, keep up the great work. I sometimes feel that, I appreciate all the good things you say about our organization, but I hear what some of these other organizations are doing, especially meeting a lot of the people from them through the nonprofit partnership. I'm thinking, they're doing so much more good than we are. I mean, with working with feeding the hungry and working with kids and domestic violence victims and stuff. So everybody's doing great work, and I'm amazed too through learning and being involved with the nonprofit partnership, that how many amazing nonprofit organizations we have here in Long Beach. So it's just it's an honor and a privilege and fun to be part of that.
Wow, Lucy, thank you so much. We could not have ended on a better note, on a more supportive comment tone.
Thanks.
And as you know, the nonprofit community it's a very diverse tapestry of
Yes.
different sorts of organizations, but
Yes.
certainly, we need organizations like yours as well, because there's just a lot to do in communities, and there's a lot to
Yeah.
advocate for and to learn about. So thank you for all that you do, Lucy. It's been a real pleasure,
Yeah.
and we will see you all next time. Thank
Great.
you.
Thanks, Carolina.